Well, I was doing a little bit of research the other day about the very first female filmmakers, and they actually appeared at the very beginning of cinema in the silent movie era. So there was a French director, her name was Alice Guy Blache. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Okay.
But she was originally a secretary at a French studio that had just started, and she accompanied her boss to some demonstrations that the Lumiere brothers were doing of early cameras and film tests, and they were using the film to tell scientific stories and to demonstrate how a camera works and how you could utilize moving pictures for promos and things like this. And she apparently found this boring, and so she asked her boss if he would let her use the camera that they had to make a narrative film. And so she made what is considered one of the very first narrative films, and this is in the, I think, 1890 something.
Ooh.
She made a short film which was a fairy in a cabbage patch, and she was just lifting babies out of the cabbage patch. So the old story of where children come from, either it's the stork or the cabbage patch. And then she went on to make reportedly about 1,000 films. She'd moved to America with her husband. They started their own studio, and for a long time she was the only female film director out there, but was very important in the narrative movie industry.
So this is more than 100 years ago.
This is more than 100 years ago. And then during that silent film period of time, there were actually a lot of female directors who were very prolific. They were making hundreds of films. One, her name was Mabel Normand. She was working with Charlie Chaplin at the time, co-directed a lot of his films with him, also directed films that he starred in. And she was also acting in films with him, and was the very first actress to have her own studio. And then there was another director, Lois Weber. She was working in the silent movie time, made 200 to 400 films, and many of them were tackling topics that a lot of female filmmakers nowadays tackle as sort of feminist issues, birth control, abortion, that sort of thing. And she actually pioneered the split screen technique with a film called Suspense, and was the first female film director to own her own studio. So yeah, there were a lot of women working during the silent film era. They were having amazing careers in all walks of the film industry, and making films that I guess we wouldn't expect from that time, unless you know about sex comedies and things like that. There was a lot of sexual innuendo. They were also portraying interracial relationships, homosexuality, things that you would think would be taboo for that sort of time. But it wasn't until the talkies or sound came in that they also brought in this thing in Hollywood, at least, called the Hays Code, which was a sort of morality formula where many things could no longer be explored, because the Catholic Church in particular didn't want it going out to children or other people to get the wrong idea. And it was interesting that I think it was around 1915 there was a Supreme Court judgment that ruled that films were not protected by the First Amendment. So you couldn't say whatever you wanted on film. There was very stringent rules about what could be put out there to audiences.
I had no idea.
I had no idea until the other day.
I heard about the Hays law, and it was very conservative, very religious, but I had no idea that it went so far.
Yeah, it went really far, and I'm not quite sure what it is about sound and the Hays Code in particular that meant that women were pushed out of the film industry as storytellers, but that sort of time period that we know as women not really having a voice in film started then.
Well done for the research you've done, because it's a lot of new information for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a bit of research, but I haven't gone back that far, like 100 years, and I had no idea. I've heard that there were a couple of women in the silent film era, but I had no idea that they had their own studios and that the first narrative, like, that's what movies are, right?
Yeah.
So before that, it was just camera testing, and then there you go, the first narrative.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.